So what we've been doing in Bengaluru that I see is we are delivering tech services, we are delivering innovation, and hence we branded it as such.
That's one way of looking at it. The other way is that what do you want the city to be in the future?
Is there even a need for an official tagline?
So what does City of Joy make for Kolkata?
Are you joyous there?
I don't know.
And everywhere I go, we are being called more sustainable than anybody else, and more people think of completely different things. There is more, even if you take the real estate sector here, there are far more people who experiment with sustainability than elsewhere, right?
Hi Sathya, it's great to be back at the monthly ones, the OoruLabs podcast.
Thanks, Susheel. Nice to be here again.
OoruLabs, what does OoruLabs mean to you?
That's a good question. For me, it is about bringing people together, conveying information, trying to understand issues, and elevate the level of discourse that we are having. Basically, there's a lot of things that we don't know, and by speaking with people and speaking amongst ourselves, maybe we understand issues better, we may understand perspectives. Why do you ask that?
If I were to ask you to give that in one line, can you compress it in one line?
The one I've been using so far, I don't know how good it is that this is the Premier's Urban Issues podcast, right? The tagline that I've been trying to use it's an Urban Issues podcast, but I don't know if it is the right thing.
Okay. So, do you think your brand needs a tagline in order for it to reinforce its belief?
I think so, because OoruLabs as a name is different from what it is trying to say. So I'm seeing this as a explanation of what the brand is. So what is OoruLabs is I'm trying to describe what is it trying to do. It is trying to tackle urban issues.
So do you think it's important to have a tagline?
I think you are the brand guy. You should be answering. Is the tagline for OoruLabs even answering anything, or is it asking a further question? Is it even clarifying what OoruLabs is? And why is that important, you think? I'm only trying to explain. Does it even have any linkage with the brand? Will people remember that it's an Urban Issues podcast, or will people remember it is OoruLabs?
Okay, so what are the famous brand taglines? Let's say that you're more exposed to brands, right? What are the most famous taglines that have stuck with you?
I don't know. Just do it comes to mind.
Nike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have over 300 million followers on Instagram. They're one of the biggest brands in the world.
Right.
And that's the spirit of what the brand is. Just do it. Don't think too much. Don't overthink. Don't be stopped by your own limitations. Just wear it. Get on with it. That kind of thing that's the kind of spirit that they come up with. But anyway, there are many other, like Apple. You use Apple products, right? Think different.
Think different. Yeah.
That's another tagline that comes to mind. Right?
Why then do we have a tagline? I know think different sounds different, but I don't necessarily suddenly associate it with the brand. Nike was famous because it just they reinforced it by doing that and introduced that in their ad, so it sticks with you. But there are so many other brands I can't even remember the taglines of. But I know that if it's IBM or whatever it's called now, right? So there are lots of names that I remember, like Samsung. I don't remember the tagline sometimes. Is it even important to have a tagline, or what is the tagline achieving? I really
like you said, tagline's job is to just reinforce the spirit of what the brand wants to tell you the brand is. Right? Like the names that you've said. I mean, McDonald's, I'm loving it. Right? Subway.
Subway.
Eat fresh or something is what
Eat fresh. Yeah.
Eat fresh or something is what their tagline is.
Correct.
So we have taglines like that for almost all brands that just say the spirit out loud, so that you remember in your mind, you associate that brand with what it stands for.
But they also need to reinforce that. So if Subway says eat fresh, they're going to have to make it fresh.
And then it reinforces in your mind that they're delivering stuff fresh.
So they have to deliver the tagline.
Yeah.
So if I say I'm an Urban Issues
podcast, just like a visual branding, they have to deliver the tagline as well.
Right. Yeah. So when I said it's an Urban Issues podcast, I have to deliver on urban issues and not necessarily go off and talk about something else, right? So that brings me, which is the fair question on this podcast, why are we discussing that? Because a couple of things came to my mind and I just wanted to, I know we have argued this over phone many times as to how it feels and all that. I think it's appropriate to just put it out there and talk about this. What does a city brand mean? And the reason I'm asking is there are a couple of issues that come to mind. There are lots of things going on now as to what Bengaluru is, who are Bengalurians, and what is the tagline. And there's also a brand Bengaluru that has been on for a while. We've got that Bengaluru written with some
Yeah,
Kannada
the visual
alphabets
design.
in it.
Yeah.
The visualization is there. But we have been known by many things anyway. What are those things? We've been known as the Garden City, the PSU City, then we've been known as the Tech City, the IT services, whatever, IT capital, the Silicon Valley of India, and then now it is the AI capital or the
It's getting to be the AI capital,
innovation, yeah, and
the
the
innovation
innovation
capital.
hub of the one of the innovation hubs. Aren't those are those brands? Are those taglines? What are they?
At every point, what the city was good at doing, what everybody recognized it for, was being expressed. But a tagline like the Garden City was something that was, when I was growing up, that was what Bangalore was known on. It was called Bangalore, the Garden City.
But that was also not official in the sense that
It was not official. No, it was just people who read about Bangalore, and I think papers and news articles, and they all just fondly remembered Bangalore as the Garden City.
But if
So
then we did tech services and then we were called the tech city and now we are delivering innovation with startups and all those things and we are called the innovation hub, why is that not a tagline or a brand?
no, is your question that should a city have a tagline? Should a city have a brand, or it doesn't need? What is your question?
My question is who gets to determine this? Because if we come up with a tag that, let's say, the government comes and says we are going to create a brand Bengaluru, right? But the city is already known by the things that it is known for in the public domain because of the things it does. On one hand, we said if Subway says eat fresh, they have to deliver fresh. On the other hand, if you're delivering fresh, you may as well say eat fresh. So what we've been doing in Bengaluru that I see is we are delivering tech services, we are delivering innovation, and hence we branded it as such. So we were delivering garden, so we said we are a garden city. So there is one way of looking at it is that what services is being delivered is the brand of the city. On the other hand, you force fit and
I don't
create a
think it
brand.
was a service that was delivered. Garden was there. The Brits kind of left so many gardens and so many urban forestry around. I mean, it's like saying, why is Jaipur called the Pink City?
They built pink stuff and then
There are
became
a
the
lot
pink
of
city.
Pink City. Did the pink exist before the Pink City came in?
So
I think so.
no, but there were no. In fact, Bengaluru was a barren plateau before anybody else came and sat here and said, let's grow trees because there are no trees. Let's grow lakes because there are no, I mean, let's create lakes because there's no water. So we've always created things. And then since the service is already being delivered or the things already exist, why don't we just give that a name? And I see a lot of gardens and trees in this place, so let's call it the garden city. I see a lot of public sector units and educational institutions, so let's just call it whatever it is, right? There was a pensioners paradise when nothing really happened here, right? So my point was, this is the thing that we have had an argument over. Should the thing that is already being done be the brand created organically, or do you actually want to create a brand, in which case you should also deliver those things?
It can be both. See, it can be based on what the city means or has meant in the past, or and from there what it means now. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is that what you want the city to be in the future. So you have two starting points. I mean, you can name it either from what the city has been significantly known for, or where it is headed. So it depends on who kind of gets around to name what it is. And I think it is a very democratic. It should be a very democratic process.
But here's the thing about democracy, democratic process. What we know today as common people may not be what arrives tomorrow. Let's say we say this is going to be, I don't know, the deep tech city or something of the future, or the AI city of the future, and we end up growing cotton. What you created a brand and you're trying to do something, and the talent pool and everything else is probably doing something else totally different, then you don't have a connection between what happened and what you want it to be. If you consciously drive it towards what you say, let's say we want to be the most sustainable city, on the planet because we are almost there. I think in India we are there. But then, if you do everything inimical to that and it is going around in some other way, then this brand has no relevance to what's happening on the ground. So the question really is, how have the other cities done it?
I like it to look at it this way, in the sense, like, when before tourism actually boomed in Kerala. Now, we're not talking about a city, we're talking about an entire state, right?
Yeah.
The state. The state's richness was in its beauty. Green, forests and mountains and beaches and all of that, lakes and rivers and all of the backwaters, all of that. Now the state wanted to capitalize on that. They decided they want to go the tourism way. And then they did that exercise where I think there was a lot of cohesion between creative people and the government and the system and all of that. That kind of came together. And of course, a handful of people came up with this name, the creative people. I think you can Google them and find out who they were exactly. But they came up with this tagline called God's Own Country, Kerala, the God's Own Country. And that kind of stuck, right? I mean, it became a huge hit. And consequently, the state became the number one in tourism in the country. It attracted all kinds of tourism because the marketing, the design, the tagline itself it just stuck. And when they say God's own country, when people came, they figured with the natural beauty, they understood that it kind of reinforced, oh wow, this is the reason why they call it the God's own country, because it's so beautiful. Not to say the other states weren't so beautiful, but
yeah, Karnataka has one state, many worlds, for example, and we pride ourselves on the diversity of the green here, the ghats there, and the historical sites there. So there are many of these examples. But why do we create it? We want to. What is the reason for creating these brands and these taglines for the cities? What do they want to achieve by that? Did you mean to say that if the God's own country was not there, tourism would not have happened in Kerala?
I don't know. It probably fueled the aspiration both from the government side, from the bureaucratic side, from the people side, and then they all worked together and then made it happen. Like probably Vancouver is called, I think, the city of lakes because they have the largest number of lakes, and because that is what they are bestowed with, and because they have branded that city that way, and they are taking that extra measure to keep the pristineness of the lake, all their lakes that they have. Probably if we said we are a garden city and we were actually serious about it, maybe we wouldn't have lost all our gardens and lakes. I don't know, it's just a hypothesis. But I think going back, I mean, looking at examples that were there from other cities and states and whatever that they kind of marketed and made the whole thing stick with a tagline as to aspirationally what they wanted to be known for. They worked towards it to preserving whatever that they wanted everybody to know. After some 40 years of this branding, I don't know if it's actually done good for Kerala, because there is another flip side also to this over-exploitation of tourism. But did tourism succeed in Kerala? Absolutely. Everybody in Kerala understands the importance of tourism and tourists, and therefore,
is there a danger of it being identified only with tourism when there are other things that might be happening in that place? For example, I can think of all the jewelry and gold and all of those things that's happening in Kerala. There's a lot of businesses doing that, and you're not using that. For example, some places in Gujarat, like Surat, I think, is called a diamond, whatever things. So there are many things that are there. Is there a danger of taking one identity and it sidelines any other accomplishment that might be there, or can they thrive together? Let's say we are still doing tech, but we still want to be, because in Bengaluru, for example, sustainability is huge, right? We're still a lot greener than many other cities. But let's say we brand that and say, let's preserve that and call it that so people can come for that. Does this mean that all the tech accomplishments will get sidelined by this brand?
Why should it? I mean, it doesn't have to be reductionist. I mean, it doesn't have to keep changing as the city is known for, as the city is evolving into something that it hones its expertise on. But it can be something that encompasses all the characteristics, both present, past, and future. So that way, I mean, it can be a very, very catchy, generic, inspiring tagline that can be a tech city, that can be a sustainable innovations capital, that can be a cycling capital of the country or the world. I don't know. It can have all of that, but it should be able to encapsulate all of that spirit. But I think it can be. That's the important. That's why it should not be called the tech city, because then you're only talking about 40% of the population, whereas what happens to the bus drivers and what happens to the non-tech professionals that are here, the creative professionals, the artists, other people, business people that are normal business people. What happens to all of them? The PSU people.
But the larger question is, who gets to determine this? We have the government trying to create committees. Yes, God's own country might have been successful, but these are all tourism related stuff, right? I mean, there are many reasons why a city might want to create taglines, brands, and everything. It wants to probably attract other people. The other people could be people who just come here to see the place. It could be people who come here and set up businesses and enterprise
Invest.
and create and invest and all that. So it's tuned towards investors as well. It's also tuned towards attracting people to live here, work here, contribute to the
Attracting better skill, the best of
correct. So there is a you want more you want basically you are calling out to people who are not already here, right? People who are here already know what it is, or even if they don't, maybe you can use that as a galvanizing tool to bring people together here. But it is once it starts being known somewhere else, you obviously want the other people to look and say, there is a branding attempt happening here to speak to us. So we may want to come here or something. When you do things like this, okay, the question really is, I don't know where I'm going with this. The point is there is one is you want to attract people. Second is who gets to determine this? If by the nature of industries developing and things happening, let's say there are lots of new sustainable stuff happening, will we then be called a sustainable city and the tech goes into the back? Who gets to determine? Because these things are already known.
So if we
why
say,
are we called the innovation hub? Because innovation is happening and it already is attracting people. Why do we need to create another brand, and who gets to create it? See, I'm worried about government creating a brand and them not delivering. Them not delivering.
I understand that point, Sathya, what you're trying to make, but that's what I'm saying. So if it's let's say, on the one side we have lots of innovation and sustainable tech, and on the other side we have a lot of IT growth that is happening, and then there is AI. I don't know, maybe AI is related to IT itself, but it's all basically technology.
Right.
It seems to be. We have some of the best PSOs in the country that are operating out of here, and there is a lot of defense people also.
Sure, that's also there.
That's also a huge thing. There are research institutions here. Some of the best institutions are also here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you call the city of progress. Does that encompass everybody? Does that include everybody? The people of Bangalore are known to be very hospitable and welcoming of others, right? So we're including them also. So maybe it should come the process should be about how do you say one thing that includes everybody and everything and the aspirations. I think that would make a better tagline, even if it is just the government that is implementing it.
So how do you bring future into the brand? We don't know what future holds. Some things evolve. And usually when the industries evolve, when we create new different things, and suddenly we have Bengaluru, for example, like Malini keeps saying, is it has reinvented itself. She tries to document that in her book. It has reinvented itself from what it was, and it is changing, and that's why it is surviving. When we were arguing, I gave the example of Detroit. The motor city or the car capital of US, whatever it is, right?
Now, and at that time, it attracted all the best automotive engineers into that city.
So now what happens? Is it still a car city, or they rebrand themselves? Because let's say tomorrow some educational institute come and set up and say, okay, we want to be the education capital, we're done with the car. So what happens to it? Do they now go and say, oh, you know what, we were the car city, but we are not anymore? Is that okay to do?
I guess it is, because once, businesses pivot, and cities can also pivot that way, right? So I think they're absolutely within their right to reinvent their city and probably change their taglines. But right now, your point is that they are in an obsolete tagline.
They probably are, and I don't even know if that's the official tagline like we discussed.
I think it is. Detroit is the auto capital of the US or something like that.
Motor city or whatever.
Motor city, I think.
Yeah. Not too many have done that, but some of them who have done that, and based on an industry. So like if we had stuck with we are the PSU city and sat around.
No, I don't think we ever had an official.
We never had an official.
Garden City also was more. People fondly remember it. I mean, the The pensioners' paradise, where people were writing in articles in papers and magazines back in the day. It was because the laid back attitude of what Bangalore was, and there was a lot of government run organizations here, so it was always a 9 to 5 kind of a thing, unlike Chennai or any other city down south, or Bombay for that matter. Bombay is called the maximum city.
I've never seen that being used in many places.
Again, I don't know if it is really an official tagline, but when you read on news articles and other, even in films sometimes, they say it's the maximum city. Bombay is the maximum city. I don't know what is maximum. Maybe it's maxed out on its seams. Could be. But I think it is also a city where anybody can go and thrive. It's also called the city of dreams, right?
Yeah, that's also there.
That's also there. And Kolkata, for that matter, is called the city of joy.
Yeah, was that official?
Everybody writes, I don't know if it's official, because when in some official documents it is called the city of joy, but is it an official thing? I'm not very sure. I think
so is there even a need for an official tagline?
Because so what does city of joy make for Kolkata?
Are you joyous there?
I don't know. I think it's also
so if it is city of joy and let's say it gets adopted by the government, just hypothetically, are they supposed to make everybody joyous? Isn't there a promise to be delivered if you make a tagline? Or here's the question I'm asking. I love NY. I Amsterdam, right? Copenhagen with the open highlighted, we're an open city and all that. They're playing around with just the images. Bengaluru has the thing with the Kannada in it, and there's a nice Bengaluru in it. Is that just sufficient? Is there a requirement for a tagline that we stick to? Because we are trying to help understand to everyone what this city is. And a tagline can achieve that by saying, who are we? It can even galvanize us to be who we are. And we are many things to many. It's the safest city. It has more greenery than others. It has good weather. It is progressive. And, like you said, we innovate and we reinvent. All of those things are there. And like you said, is there a way you can bring all that together? Is there a need to do that? And if we do that, we probably are one of the cities which might officially have it as well. But I see most people just doing the visual thing and walking away. Either the government doesn't want to commit to keeping these, or the industry just says, or the people around it are not coming around to agreeing on what this could be and how it could be delivered and who would deliver that.
No, I think there was a need-based branding exercise, like in Kerala, when they knew they were getting up for a huge tourism blitzkrieg back in the 90s. I think that was what got the government to push this agenda forward and have some of the best of minds to come together, and they were serious about going that direction, right? And that they got this, multiple stakeholders from the community and from the society to work together and to see how could we brand ourselves. They were not rebranding; they were not a brand before that. So they just came together in order to sell themselves out to the world, because they had something that they were proud of. They knew that the others who come to see that thing would love it, and in that process they could hit the prosperity jackpot. Perhaps that's the reason why no, it's not perhaps, I know, I've read some articles from advertising professionals and from magazines, where they have said that the whole idea was to go in that direction and create a brand called Kerala. And therefore, like all brands have a tagline that reinforces the spirit of what the brand stands for. And they came up with that line. That line was fantastic, and it worked wonders for Kerala. In fact, even now, after the international remittances that come, the biggest money spinner for Kerala is still tourism, right? So if Bangalore has a vision, a very cohesive vision that everybody understands that they already have the potential for, and if they want to sell this city, now we'll be really rebranding the city, because the city has been known to be many things. Even in the West, even if you don't have a tagline that you call Bangalore the tech capital of India, most people in the West also knows Bangalore as the tech supplier to the world, right? It's already there. So I think if the government finds, or whoever it is, the powers that be, finds a purpose and direction, then you can rebrand the whole city. And of course, then a tagline would be very helpful.
I see the power for civil society to push for that, because there seems to be no goal really, and we're jumping from one thing to the next. not the industry, the governance side of things, right? We really don't know how. It's just anybody do anything will help, which is also good in some way. But increasingly, I've noticed that the unofficial ways of handing out monikers to areas and regions and cities seems to be working in the city's favor. In the case of Bengaluru, you call yourself Innovation Hub, somebody ranks you on something, and that becomes the tagline. The Silicon Valley is not even one place. It's neither San Jose or Palo Alto or San Francisco. It's the whole valley, the whole Bay Area.
Yeah.
And the research triangle in the East Coast, for example, right? Or the different cities, financial districts, financial capital, Singapore brands itself, or whatever it is. There seems to be a lot of identities for a city. Because city is basically not just for tourism. You could have tourist elements. Paris is one of the places where tourism is also upheld. There are two big things that I see that is useful out of this exercise. One is if you can or people can agree on what it could be or give it a tagline or something like that, we can.
No, I think you should understand the purpose first. What direction you want to go. Now, if you say it's going to be innovation, if it's going to be, that's how brands are created, right? You understand what part of the system's requirement are you trying to plug in? What hole or what gaps in the market are you trying to fill in with your idea or the product? Based on that, you create a product or a service, and then you brand it. And then, because you know which area, which direction you're going, what your purpose is, you come up with a tagline that reinforces the spirit of what you're doing.
And the question of you is who, right? I mean, you can always trust that there are a bunch of people who think this could go in a very dystopian way, and they say this is where we want to go. For example, let's say we are just filled with a lot of technology and there is no greenery left. I can see that as one of the options.
That would be very dystopic for a very green city.
But a bunch of people could come up with that and say this is what we want Bengaluru to be. On the other hand, a different bunch of people could come back and say we like none of these things. We want Bengaluru to be what it was in the 1960s. Well, back to being a pensioner's paradise.
Sad stories, it can be neither of it.
Maybe there's a middle ground, but I'm just trying to say who gets to determine this, and if you determine it now, when you don't know what the future holds, how is it going to evolve? Or you could just do it. Even if Nike does 100 different things, you can just do it, right? I mean, it's generic enough that it doesn't make anything, but it just gives you okay, we're just telling you to just use whatever we give you and it'll just do it. So it could be something like you come to Bengaluru. It's a little different. This is why I'm trying to draw the distinction between how products are branded, because you have a deliberate service that you're giving and you're able to stick to that. But the city offers so many things to so many people. How do you even brand it?
Which is why, like I said, it has to be all inclusive in the sense, like it has to at least be appealing to 80% of a divergent crowd. In the sense that they have to feel some sense of ownership to what you're calling Bangalore to be, right? Garden City in the 90s was quite appealing to everybody, not just Bangaloreans, but even people who are coming into Bangalore, because it was a nice thing. But
it still is.
It still is.
Hopefully, still will be.
Yeah. So this thing is that, okay, if you're going to, it definitely cannot be like a tech city. I don't know. I personally don't feel that it should be called the AI capital of the world. I think a lot of us are feel left out of that game. Because sure, the city has more AI geniuses than any other city in the country. Perhaps it does. But what about the rest of us who have no idea how to use, not part of the tech industry, right? But as opposed to that, if you were to say, if this city is going to catalyze a lot of sustainable innovation, and that becomes the model for the rest of the cities in this country to kind of emulate, right? I think that would be a very good, because I think we are already seen as a city where a lot of experimentations are already done, and we already do not so, we walk the untreaded path already. We just take the path least known. In a sense, we like to experiment. A lot of these startups itself, kind of come to Bangalore because the early adopters are a lot more in this city, because by its constitution, I think the city likes to experiment with a lot of things, and therefore you can try out new different things here. Some may work, some may not work, but it's a really good testing ground for other cities to kind of incubate fresh ideas. So maybe in those lines, if it went, I'd be really happy, because that would make me also happy. That would probably make somebody else also along all the spectrum of social space, quite happy, I think.
No, I would agree with that. I would second your point. Everywhere I go, we are being called more sustainable than anybody else, and more people think of completely different things. There is more, even if you take the real estate sector here, there are far more people who experiment with sustainability than elsewhere, right? Or any other sector, for example. Even in the corporate sector, I've seen more people look at sustainability and all of those things, which are on the cutting edge, which are like completely off the charts. It is there. So
even civic action groups.
Yeah.
This city has the largest registered number of civic action groups in the
True.
country.
Yeah. And there is a lot of it. You and I are also in the middle of those kind of things. But here's the question again: who gets to determine this? Is it this committee that will sit and try to decide? But if you ask the 1.5 crore people, you will not get something that is going to be coherent. It will be all over the place because everybody has a different view of what they want. One guy will say, I want flyovers and underpasses or tunnels. The other guy, like people like me, might say, no, that's not how we want a city to be, right? We all have our own visions of how the city needs to be. If you take a dipstick today versus if you took a dipstick in 5 years from now, and if you took a dipstick some other time, situations would evolve and change. My only thing is, does the organic growth of the city determine its brand, or should we come up with a moniker that encapsulates all of these things intelligently and try to create a tagline? I'm not talking the visual brand of writing something like Bengaluru, this, that, everything else.
Which is also good. It also looks good.
I don't know what it actually gives. I can see it in many places. What does it do? I can take pictures with it. So what? I've come here. It doesn't speak. It's like saying OoruLabs. Yeah, I mean, it is there. Unless I say this is an urban affairs and urban issues podcast, you don't know what to think of this. You might come thinking that I'm going to talk some random stuff. Movie review. No, that's not what I'm doing, right? You have to have something additional that says what this city is and what this brand is expected to deliver. What is Bengaluru expecting to deliver to the people who are in it and who are going to come to it and who are going to look at it from the outside? What is that? Shouldn't we be articulating, and who articulates that? How do we arrive at that?
Well, that's a big question that only people in the government and close to the government can answer. But I really hope that they don't, take a unilateral call with just a few bunch of people, a coterie of best friends come and do that. It should be in the public domain. But I also don't think the entire 1.4 crore people should also be involved in it, because it will get nowhere. Because, like you said, everybody will want different things. So there are set standards that marketing professionals know how to get these things done. There could be surveys, there could be questionnaires, there could be discussions with different kinds of people.
All that has happened. There was huge amount of lots of sessions of this and that, and what do you want to do, and everything dribbled down into I want a road in front of my house, this sewage is overflowing. These are practical problems you and I face. We haven't even fixed that.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with taglines.
But then even if you make a tagline, okay, let's say we are a sustainable city and your drain is leaking. What are we going to do?
Well, maybe, see, the point is, if you say you're a sustainable city, the city of sustainability, I don't know, the city of progress, or the livable city, I don't know, something like that. If you say something like that, if you say that's what Bangalore is going to be, the day you say it, it doesn't mean everything fixes itself.
No, over time.
At least over time. Yeah. So, then you start branding or you start communicating in that spirit over everything else that you do in the city.
It helps you
to reinforce that way. So I think in that way it gives direction. It gives a sense of ownership for all the citizens of Bangalore to put in their bit, to say, okay, let me also play a part in this. And and the government's job is to make sure that everybody is inspired enough to participate.
That's a nice way to bring cohesion, social cohesion, bringing an active city, creating nicer places for people to interact. If the brand drives more interaction on the ground, there'll be more social cohesion, less amount of bish bash.
Yes.
more understanding. There should be a sense of belongingness to the city for people who are already here, and the
Absolutely.
people who come. How do they participate in it? Otherwise, we just ghettoize ourselves, right? How do we
Yeah.
participate openly in this so we can take back things from each other?
Hmm.
That is increasingly, if you don't bring, and I see value in that, bringing together people using a nice tagline and making that action happen on the ground on a continual basis so that more and more people of all strata come together and talk. I think there is brand value in that, but I think we should, I don't know, what do the people say?
I don't know. I think people will be excited. Maybe why don't we start a survey and find out what people have to say? What do they think about Bangalore? What they think Bangalore should become in
Comment
terms
in
of,
the YouTube post.
yeah, you
That's a
should
good enough thing.
comment. And then I think also should, this thing about why a branding exercise has to be um an inclusive process, not something that is enforced upon by the government because they sat together and thought something was good.
Mhm.
If they come up with something and if there is no buy-in from the people, then it, like you said, it just is a flat thing that is there on roads that you'll see and nobody even knows, and just take a selfie because it looks nice in a photo,
Yeah.
but nobody else will have anything else to do with it.
Mm.
So I think it should be a very functional thing, just like how brands have taglines and they make it very functional, that it sticks with you what that brand is all about. It should have the same thing, but because the brands have products and services that constantly hone and they constantly drive that message, similarly the government also has to do it. It's a lot of work for the government to do that. Simply coming up with a line is not going to stick.
Is that why they're not doing it? Maybe they should put their heads down and actually come up with something they want to live up to and make the city what it is. And maybe that gives us the direction, the goal of what it needs to be. Just like if I say it's Urban Affairs podcast, I'm not going to do too many things just like go out and, you know, um, talk about something else, right? So we're sticking to urban. It gives a goal, it gives a nice uh, target. And of course, it's hard work to deliver. And if you don't deliver and the trust is broken, I don't think we will believe in that brand anymore. That's another thing the government has, right? I can't deliver most of these things, so I don't promise anything, right? You talk to them about being sustainable, being all these things. Hold on, we can't even fix the right things first. We are not going to commit on it. So this is always a long road to go, and I think we should. Your call is right. Maybe first is for people to comment and say what would be their tagline for Bengaluru. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we can also just compile it and perhaps push it under the door where the governments are making decisions on this.
I will put it up in the public.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing anybody's door. They don't want to listen. I'm not interested. Well, as long as the public understand that it holds government to account, and it can actually get them to deliver. We should be pushing them to actually do this.
Yeah.
Even if they don't, we should say commit to something.
Yeah.
And let's deliver to that.
Yeah.
I think that's a useful thing to go for.
Yeah, and I think the government is already trying to do a few things. I think the climate action plan, a cell is being prepared. I mean, it's put in BBMP. I think there's a lot of work happening, and they're looking at sustainable goals to achieve by 2030, 2040. So,
Yeah, mostly disappointed with progress across government because it's all nice to put those things together, but actually committing resources, working with society, working with varied kinds of people there. I think, yeah, I've been getting invites and that's been happening.
I really hope that Bangalore gets that kind of a brand image, that reinvented one that invigorates all its citizens to be part of it and want to be able to do something for it, even if not actively on a daily basis, but even passively would really help. And I think they should come up with a really cool tagline. And I think the viewers should come up with suggestions of what tagline they could think of for Bangalore to have. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
See you all next week.
See you all next week. Thank you for joining us.
Next month.
Sorry, next month.
I'm seeing them every week, but they'll see us.
He's seeing every week. I come once a month. That's why it's called the monthly ones. So I'll see you until next month. Bye bye.
Bye bye.